It was Sunday, March 3rd, 1946. The beginning of a reign of terror for the people of Texarkana and surrounding areas of Arkansas and Texas. A terror so indelibly imprinted that today, 30 years later, people still speak of it fearfully. The incredible story you are about to see is true. Where it happened and how it happened. Only the names have been changed.
Welcome to Now Playing Podcast's The Town That Dreaded Sundown retrospective series.
And then they did a retrospective.
Hosted by Arnie.
Fact is, Chief, the only thing we really do know is that we've got a very strange person on our hands.
Stuart.
He was the boogeyman, they said.
And Jacob.
The big man himself, living legend.
But be warned, this episode will contain detailed plot spoilers and strong language.
I want my entire team to hear what you have to say. If you think it's important, we think it's important.
We hope you enjoy the show.
I must say they do know how to please a man.
Today we're discussing The Town That Dreaded Sundown, starring Addison Timlin, Travis Trope, Spencer Treat Clark, Ed Lauder, Veronica Cartwright, Gary Cole, Anthony Anderson, Joshua Leonard, and Edward Herman, directed by Alfonso Gomez Rejon. This is the Now Playing co-host who needs some sugar, Arnie.
And Stuart.
This is Jacob, and you don't have to pull a gun on me to get me to take off my pants.
You know, we do a lot of sequels here at Now Playing, but rare is it the 48-year span between original and part 2. This is weird that anyone would remember The Town That Dreaded Sundown to make a sequel so many decades later.
You saying sequel, not what I was expecting. Like, yeah, it's coming out 40-something years later. Apparently that other one's some kind of minor cult hit. So yeah, you remake that, you make it good though. I was expecting to be talking about the same events, same story.
Yeah, I had heard that this was a remake. It has the exact same title, coming so much later. And it was on the tail end, but there were so many horror remakes. Even minor horror films were getting remakes in the aughts and the early teens that, yeah, I thought we were going to be discussing another telling of the 1940s killings. But not that I'd ever heard of this sequel, remake, whatever you want to call it, any more than I'd heard of the original one. This thing didn't make a blip on my radar in 2014.
Yeah, did this come out in theaters?
I don't think so. Here's the thing. I don't think that you can make the events in 1946. I mean, certainly if you're going to be leaning towards the truth, there's no interesting story there. The story is in myth. It's in what gets made up in people's minds. But the actual events are depressingly undramatic, really. You just couldn't do it. I don't think you could make a straight remake. No one would care. And certainly these days, we're expecting more, right? More bloodshed, more over the top. You can't just do a straight reboot.
The first film story could be completely retold in a much more dramatic fashion.
You could have a main character. You could show a town that actually did dread sundown. There's a lot of things you could do to retell this story.
I'm not sure why you would, though. Again, when there's so many other things that you could do, why did we get this movie is the question really being asked. I think there's a few things that come into play around this time. One, the original director, Charles Pierce, finally dies.
Was he holding on to the rights? Like, no sequels, no remakes?
Well, a lot of, he made a lot of Boggy Creek sequels. And so I do think that, yeah, he was going to be creatively involved in whatever came next out of this. And you probably wouldn't want his opinion. You probably wouldn't want his fingerprints.
Nope. No more Sparkplug. Though we do get Sparkplug in this, which is crazy.
Yes. And the other thing is that I think, as you say, Arnie, there were a lot of reboots. There were also just a lot of postmodernism was back. Scream 4 happened in 2011. Cabin in the Woods happened in 2012. This idea of ironic slashers was a thing. And then the big reason why this happened, really the reason why this happened, is Ryan Murphy. He has discovered the horror genre on television to great ratings and Emmy success. Have you ever watched American Horror Story?
I watched season 1. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't love it enough to keep watching the future seasons.
Is it still going? Yeah, I know it went for a while. My wife watched the first season, but I never got into it.
Yeah, I always start it. Every season I start it, and sometimes I finish it, and sometimes I walk away.
Like, wasn't Lady Gaga on that at one point?
Oh, yeah, several seasons with her. But yes, they currently have just started a new season with Kim Kardashian as the big get.
So it's still going. Okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think they've got one more year beyond this one, 12 or 13 seasons. But the gimmick of that show, just in case people aren't familiar, is they pick a point in America and then they exploit the lore. What are the tall tales? What are the horrific historical things that have happened there? We'll spin it into a whole season. And they were looking to do something in the American Southwest. And I think that's how Ryan Murphy came across these Moonlight Murders. And he ended up putting it in the New Orleans season. Season 3 ended up being about a coven of witches. He said, "Now we can make this into a movie." And so he took the mythology of Texarkana and brought it to Blumhouse and said, let's make this its own thing.
Yeah, Ryan Murphy, I primarily know him from Nip Tuck, which was a show that I loved and then hate watched after it got really bad in the later seasons.
Every Ryan Murphy show will live to turn into something horrible. It's true. Good first seasons, excrement in those final seasons, yes.
But I was excited when I saw his name behind the film, when I saw he was one of the producers.
Yeah, right. This is really his idea. And again, I have to believe he was doing that deep dive research. What has happened in Texas, Arkansas, New Orleans? This would have been something to take note of. And I guess he didn't think it was a season of TV. I guess he thought that when he found the 76 movie, maybe it would be more interesting to try and do a smaller version of what they do on American Horror Story at the movie theaters. And he hires a director who had shot many of the first and second season episodes and was from Laredo, Alfonso Gomez Rejon.
Okay, so this guy did TV, because I looked him up on Letterboxd, and he had like 3 movies I had never heard of. I'm like, who is this director? Who is anyone in this film? But so he was a TV guy.
He was primarily an American Horror Story guy, and that's what made him perfect for this. A guy from Texas who liked horror. But yeah, his later work is not horror. He's not a horror director. He ends up making a teen melodrama about cancer and the current war, which is like a period Oscar bait kind of thing about like whether AC or DC is going to put into your household in 1890. A real strange resume.
I read that book. It was a good book.
Yeah, and I saw the movie. It was Cumberbatch and Michael Shannon and Nicholas Hoult as Tesla. It was okay-ish, but not someone that is begging for me to see their slasher film. Strange choice. The screenwriter also comes from Ryan Murphy, had worked on Glee, and had also worked on that Carrie remake that we started our Stephen King retrospect reviewing.
I did notice that, yeah.
He has gone on to be the showrunner for Riverdale, the Sabrina reboot that people say is actually good, Pretty Little Liars, all of that stuff.
All stuff I have not watched.
Teen soap opera with a dark, kind of horrific, gothic bent. That's what this is coming from. But people that have largely proven themselves on the small screen. And maybe that's why this did not get a major screen release. They said it was going to when you watch the trailers for the movie coming to theaters October 2014. But I looked through all the box office numbers and it never seemed to have actually opened. That this ended up being Blumhouse opened up a wing devoted strictly to straight to streaming kind of stuff. They call it Blumhouse Tilt. And this was one of those releases. So I don't think you would know that it came out if you strictly looked at what's playing at your multiplex.
Surely Texarkana at least got a screening of this.
Yeah, probably so. But not a box office notable film. And indeed, I think it's interesting. You talk about the fact that Sean Ray loved the original, didn't see this, didn't know that it existed.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Even fans of the original didn't know that this thing happened. And how do you market the sequel / quasi remake, requel, whatever we're going to call this, the meta spin on a movie that people don't know? I think that is the challenge. Ultimately, it's not whether the movie was good or bad that it got the release that it did. It's the fact that you couldn't market a sequel to something no one had ever heard of.
So I know that this comes from a fictional place. Is anything in this true? Because they are going to retcon some of the original movie and the original killings. Is there any basis in any truth to this movie?
Yes. Every year they do a screening of the 1976 movie.
Arnie said that in the last show, and that blows my mind that this is real. I'm like, oh, this isn't really poor taste. Like, there's no way, like, this town comes together to watch this exploitation film about a murder, but, like, it blows my mind that this is real.
It blows my mind that people would want to watch that first film again, let alone every year.
That too.
I think I get it. I mean, again, that it becomes a part of your identity, that towns, certainly humor is a way to process trauma, and I do think the town was traumatized in 1946. And the way that it has helped gotten over that is, well, yeah, people bought a lot of guns. And then I think that they kind of turn it into a camp screening. I think it's more like Rocky Horror. I don't think people watch it to freak themselves out. But yeah, it's a part of where they live, where they come from, and it remains an unsolved case. So that gives these screenwriters, this filmmaker, a lot of creative room to create what is largely, yes, a very fictional continuation. Nothing we're here to talk about anyone is really calling a true story. But let's find out what it is. Arnie, give him the plot.
Well, this film takes place in 2013, nearly 70 years after the real-life murders that took place in Texarkana. The town has come to embrace its bloody history, and every year at Halloween, they show the classic horror film, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. At the showing this year is our final girl, Jamie Lerner, played by Addison Timlin. They're on a date with fellow high school student Corey Holland, played by Spencer Treat Clark. The two leave the movie to go make out when a masked man attacks them. He wears the mask and follows the MO of the Phantom Killer from 1946. But while he kills Corey, he lets Jamie live, saying, "This is for Mary. Make them remember." Jamie tells this to the police, who give her a law enforcement escort in the form of Deputy Claiborne Foster, played by Joshua Leonard. But while Jamie gets threatening calls and emails from the Phantom, others in the town are brutally murdered, usually in the midst of a romantic encounter. Even the town's chief deputy, Hank Tillman, played by Gary Cole, is murdered by this masked killer. Leading the investigation this time is Texas Ranger Lone Wolf Morales, played by Anthony Anderson. Jamie, not trusting the cops to find the real killer, does her own investigating. She's aided by Nick Strain, a former classmate of hers, played by Travis Trope. The two become romantically entangled while they search for the killer. As part of their investigation, Jamie and Nick go to Charles Pierce Jr., the son of Charles B. Pierce, director of the 1976 film. That director is now dead, but his son passes on a theory about the killer. Pierce says there's a forgotten Phantom victim from 1946 named Hank McCready. The Phantom killed Hank, but Hank's murder was ruled an accident and not included in the 1976 film. Hank also had a wife named Mary. The McCready family was upset that Hank's death was not honored among the Phantom's other victims, and Pierce believes McCready's son could be the new Phantom. But that leads to our climax. Nick and Jamie have sex, and almost immediately after, Nick is killed by the Phantom. Jamie is captured, and it's revealed there's not one, but two Phantoms. The first is Corey, whose death in the opening scene was faked. The other is Deputy Foster, who's the grandson of Hank McCready. Foster kills Corey and plans to kill Jamie and tell the public that Jamie and Corey were the Phantom killers, but Jamie gets a gun and shoots Foster. Foster flees and is never found, either dead or alive. And we see Jamie has moved on with her life, attending the University of California, but the Phantom still stalks her as credits roll.
As they begin, they're going to do the newsreel thing. They're going to try to keep that consistency, but this movie is going to ultimately be a traditional horror movie, a slasher movie at that. I don't think we're going to have the same debate about whether this is a police procedural or Halloween.
As soon as this narration started, I started writing exclamation marks down in my notes, so upset. They're really going to do this again. I'm going to have to listen to someone tell me the whole story. Oh, okay, it's a homage to the original. Okay, I could go with that. That put me at ease. It is just in this opening, but oh boy, as soon as I realized that this is not a remake, I was in a better space.
And American Horror Story does this a lot. Whenever they pick the place, first one, it was a haunted house or something like that in L.A. They have a game of jumping to the 40s, then jumping to the 70s, then jumping to modern day and back forth. That is a storytelling device that they try to keep up here. Yes, we need to keep in our mind that there were murders in 1946. We also need to keep in mind that there was a film in 1976 And this narration seems to imply that it's the film more than the actual murders that keeps the interest and possibly the killer around.
Yeah, because it's easy to forget that original film, it feels very 70s, like just because it's so ugly looking, but it is a 40s film. And you think about that in 2013, like, oh, yeah, most of those people are probably dead. Like, those things start to fade away. It's not like today where everything's recorded on social media and you'll be able to see it forever, I guess, as long as the servers stay up. But yeah, these things would fade, and that film, that would become the memory.
And we're going to start here at a drive-in showing the movie. And yeah, one thing I knew from last week is that they really do this at a drive-in. And I was expecting a remake. So when we're introduced to our couple here, I thought, well, these are the two who are going to get offed in the first kill, just like in the first movie. I never expected we'd be getting a final girl out of this, Jamie, and what we're going to see is a first attack, but again, much like the first movie, not everyone's going to die who gets attacked.
And I gotta say, like, before they drive off, because she doesn't like that film, neither did I don't blame you, Jamie, there is this preacher, like, this is a godless film, real people died. I'm like, yes, thank you, like, I'm questioning the whole taste of this. It's blowing my mind that this is a real thing that they do. And this is what does happen in films. And, like, I guess I'll say this film is smart enough to realize, like, yes, this is commentary on how we use real-life tragedy to entertain ourselves. But it took me a minute to realize that they were clued in on that as well. So I'm with this preacher at the beginning.
Yes, I do think that this movie, again, I'll restate, is much more about how the 76 film hurt this town than how however many phantoms there were, and there might have been two or more back in 1946, they didn't do nearly the damage that the Pierce film did in perpetuating myth and exploiting tragedy.
Maybe so, but one of the things that I feel about this film that I was feeling throughout the movie but hit me over the head with its climax is that the filmmakers definitely were channeling the Scream series. And if you think about Scream, in the Scream sequels, there's always the stab fictional movies that depict real killings as if they were a slasher film. And so here, I'm seeing them reference the 1976 film, similar to how in Scream 2 they'd reference Stab 1 or what have you. Including starting at a screening. I mean, they start at a screening of Stab in that second Scream film.
Yeah, and again, I just keep in mind, Scream 4, there had been a long pause between Scream films, between 3 and 4. Scream 4 would have just opened. I would think that Blumhouse was hoping this would become a new trend, that they were jumping back into something that hadn't been popular since the 90s. But I want to give a compliment. Starting off here, yeah, the first movie, we all can recognize the technical limitations, the low budget, just flat out the fact that the filmmakers didn't know what they were doing. But the people behind these cameras, it's a good-looking movie, and this opening tracking shot, really cool the way it winds between our main couple. We're going to see Pierce in his car. We're going to see the guy that gets shot at the vigil later, and the preacher, all the characters, the town that is going to dread the sundown, they're all kind of show up here in this opening shot. And I think that just makes me feel like I'm in much better cinematic hands.
So much more competent.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the camera work. One thing I noticed is that they'll do canted angles and even sideways angles and things to keep you on your toes as you're watching. And yeah, I did think that this was a really decent looking film, especially given that I assume being Blumhouse it had a nothing budget.
I don't think it had a huge budget, but they know what to do with it. Whatever money they have, it's up here on the screen. And yes, we have a couple, Corey and Jamie, heading off to Lover's Lane. And that term requel, I mean, Scream kind of taught me that term. That's kind of what we're getting here. We're going to get the same kills that we did in the first movie, but contextualized in a new way. The fact that this is a modern couple and that, yes, they pulled in here to talk about where they're going to go to college. And as he's reaching into her lap, they do a rack focus and there's a guy with a sack on his head.
Yeah, what a buzzkill, right? I mean, he thought he was getting some. He had his hand in between her thighs.
Not just laying a head down on the lap this time.
Yeah, he's like, did I do something wrong? She's like, no. So that's like the go-ahead. And then, of course, she's like, can we just go home? I mean, there's a creepy guy, peeping Tom, pervert at best, in the woods there. Yeah, that's gonna make everything shrivel, and it is time to call it a night.
And in a twist worthy of Ryan Murphy, he's done a lot for gay visibility. This killer is going to be more interested in the dude than the woman. When he actually rushes their car, breaks the windshield, he's making the guy drop trowel and get on the ground.
And he's talking. I found that to be a really interesting change of pace for the killer, who was silent last time. Here, he's going to be chatty.
Yeah, he keeps telling Jamie not to look, and look, that's what you do. Don't look when someone's got a mask on, especially if they're going to reveal their face. You're dead if they do that. Don't look at the killer. That's always bad. But you talked about the camera work, and it's really interesting during this whole scene is they do this thing where it's almost like a reel flickering with the hubcap or something, feeling like a movie reel, and this is being projected almost. I really like that. They don't do it a whole lot throughout the rest of the film, but they do it right here.
Yeah, You Looked ends up feeling like an indictment for the whole project, right? The fact that people are looking at the movie, the fact that people seem to be encouraging this behavior is the indignation. And I do think that, yes, that this movie has become very meta very quickly in that we almost hear the film running through the projector as she turns to run and go into the forest.
Yeah, and this is where the camera turns on its side, turns quarter degrees and things, and is really a good chase. And, I mean, you think that he wants them both dead? I do think they cheat. We're going to find out here that Corey was not killed here. He was stabbed in the back a lot of times for somebody who was not killed.
He had squibs stuck back there. Come on.
Again, they tell her not to look, but they know she's going to look, right? This is all staged for them, that the killers are in cahoots. And this is a movie that I think it makes really clear that there's a duality in this town, that there is a Texas side, an Arkansas side, that there are two of everything is, I think, something that is just easier to see than it was in 1976. I didn't guess the surprise. I'll just go ahead and say maybe I should have, but it might feel like a cheat. But I did watch this movie twice. And again, the reason why the killer can kill the killer is because there's two of them and they're working together even in this moment.
And they set up a good mystery here. Not just who is the Phantom, but this is for Mary, make them remember. Okay, so now there's some kind of motive. Who is this Mary? I'm looking back, there was like a Mary Lou or something in the last one. Is that the Mary? So right away, unlike that other one where I'm like, who's the main character here? What is the central conceit? Why am I just seeing a series of events happen? Here, I've got a killer and I've got a mystery to get behind.
I also was looking that up, Jacob. It was Emma Lou last time. The only Mary we had in the last one was Mary Ann Dawn Wells. There was nobody named Mary in the first film. So I was checking for that myself because I was trying to figure out who this Mary might be.
Because I didn't remember much of that film if it wasn't a trombone. I didn't remember no Mary.
Yeah, Mary Jean Larry is the name of the real first victim, the one that lived but with bite marks all over her. And so maybe that's the Mary that he's talking about. When he has her down, you think she's dead. This feels like an opening kill, but the fact that she ends up stumbling back to the drive-in and lives to tell the tale to the cops makes you realize that this is both remaking what we saw before and doing it in a way that feels like, someone that has studied and knows slashers. And in fact, this girl is called Jamie. Don't tell me that's not Jamie Lee Curtis. I also like the detail that in the town, and this is true, Jim Bowie was, a hero of the Alamo, did invent that knife, and they do have a statue of him holding it there in town square. The killers have put a sack over his head and made him look like the Phantom.
Yeah, it's weird, you get that one image, but I guess the cops, they make a point to Jamie, don't go to the press, don't tell them all the details, we want to keep this under wraps, so...
That's Hank.
Yeah, later on, we'll have someone say, we got to tear down that Jim Bowie statue, but I thought we were going to get, more clues like that popping up throughout the film.
Yeah, there are several cops, just like there were last time, and one of them is Gary Cole of Office Space. He's the cranky one. He's the one that first looks like probably could be the killer. He's the one that doesn't want to get the press in on this, that is trying to control the situation.
That would be the biggest shock for me if Gary Cole, Mr. Brady from the Brady Bunch movies, Mike Brady, if he was the killer. The fact that he's even in here in a serious role, let me tell you, later on when he's getting head, it's blowing my mind because I'm like, that's Mike Brady there. Jesus Christ.
He's done some dramatic work, but I get, yes, maybe for most of the audience, if they know who he is, they're not used to seeing him portrayed in this way. But Jamie has also got another celebrity living with her, Grandma Lillian. This is Veronica Cartwright, Lambert from Alien, and she was also in that 70s Body Snatchers movie.
Oh, I did not recognize her. A lot of time has passed. I saw the name in the credits and couldn't place where I knew Veronica Cartwright from. But yeah, that's Grandma, who is still too young, right? She would have not been aware or around in the 46 murders.
Well, what she says is they go home and she's in the house of her parents. She says the parents lived in this house back in 1940s, but she was here when the movie came out. So when she's looking at the doors and talking about the paranoia, she's not talking about the 40s paranoia. She's talking about what Pierce's film did to the community again.
And it's during this time between Grandma and Jamie where we're going to get a lot of details about Jamie's life, her parents being dead. There's one thing dropped that she wants to study creative writing, and I kid you not, I'm like, oh, are they going to do I Know Who Killed Me? Is this Jamie writing a fictional story to process, like, to get into college, writing a story about a story in her town? I was going to be so mad if that was the reveal at the end.
You know, Jacob, I was almost there in the same thought. I was wondering if Jamie was the killer and she was, like, having a psychotic break. I mean, how many movies have we seen like that where the person's the killer and doesn't realize they're a killer?
Yeah, and they talk about her not wanting to take her anti-anxiety medication. I definitely had people I was eyeing for the killer throughout this.
And I think when I hear you guys saying, I'm going to just bring to a fine point, this movie has a lot of good suspects. If you want to play the game of who done it, is it Grandma? Is it Gary Cole? Is it our final girl? You could say that this cast is overstuffed. There feels like there's too many people here, but it helps create all the red herrings and the guessing game that makes this kind of thing fun.
I even was eyeing the minister from the beginning. Like, is there going to be a Scooby-Doo moment where they pull the Phantom mask off? Like, he doesn't have the same build. Maybe he hired a choir boy or something. But yeah, I'm eyeing people. There's a mystery. I'm engaged. I'm having such a better time than that last original version of this story.
And that minister is Edward Herrmann, who was the lead vampire from Lost Boys. So he's been a twist villain before.
Yeah, there's a lot of horror cachet. Again, this is a movie that's going to reward you that actually the filmmakers understand slashers. They've lived through the 50 years of movie making since the 76 Sundown and have seen how the genre has progressed and are going to make those, Scream in-jokes. This is very self-referential in the way that a Scream movie would be, but referencing a slasher that I don't think Scream would even know about.
I mean, we're going to get, a seventh Scream film. They're going to have to dig deep at some point.
Well, they are changing that formula, but yes, they're moving away, I feel like, from knowing horror movies. But this movie very much needs you to know the original 76 movie, because everything that it does feels like it's calling back to some of those other kills.
I for sure had that thought because early on they're going to show like that trombone scene, and I'm like, if I hadn't seen that original, would that even have processed? But then they're going to call back and like show it again and again. But yeah, I was thinking that. I'm like, would this film, because I'm having a good time so far, but would I be having this good time if I didn't know what it was kind of based on?
Right. I think you need it. As much as I heard you guys saying you didn't enjoy it, I think you need to have had one spin with the 76 film.
I agree. I think that for this to really be driven home, that was needed. Although, is there any link between that movie and our second attack, our second set of kills here? It does feel very much like we're going to be introduced to a couple of characters just for a body count now. It's November 26th, and we're going to see a guy home from his service and his woman.
His girlfriend. I don't even know if they have names.
Kendra.
But no, like, here's the thing. I'm like, wow, I don't know if I've seen, like, a hardcore sex scene like this in a slasher film since the 80s. Like, this feels like a throwback, and so much of this film is a wink and a nod, like they know what they're doing. I figure that's why there's just a hardcore humping scene at the hotel room.
You know what this was making me think of is My Bloody Valentine 3D that we reviewed? that also had that horny humping hotel scene?
Yes, and a severed head, I believe.
Yes. So I was definitely thinking about that when I was watching this, but yay, it's good to see an old-fashioned titty shot in a horror film.
Yeah, make slashers horny again is what I say.
Can I have a hat of that?
You can. I will sell that. If people want to buy it, give me money. I'll sell it to you.
Here's the tie. I hear you ask, what is the connection to the original movie? I don't think it's connected to the original movie, but Corporal Danny Torrens was actually one of the investigators in 1946. He was somebody that had his own theory about what was going on. So maybe it's kind of funny to make him one of these victimized couples.
I just took it as it's a military guy. They made such a big deal about post-World War II soldiers coming home in that last one. That was the connection.
Well, yeah. The second victim, that guy was a Seabee. He was in the Navy in Japan. They had some passing dialogue. There wasn't a lot to the characters in the first one. So it's hard to make reference to some of those kills because they were so generic. They were so undefined. They do what they can here, and then they run with it. You're right. It's a very in-your-face, naked scene. He goes out for some vending and comes back a severed head through the window.
And she jumps out the window and gets a compound fracture in her leg. And that is a wince moment. Anytime I see bones poking through skin like that, oh.
Yeah, I feel like even a lot of the R-rated horror that we talk about, I don't get that visceral, fun gore that I associate with slashers that I want to see. I don't want high art here. I want some good bones poking out, some boobs, that's what a slasher is. And this is, again, not high art, but it's delivering on what I want from this kind of film with that whole breaking of the bone and her crawling to the car and trying to get away.
I agree. I just wish this movie was more of it. I wish it was more exploitative in the way that this scene is.
This is shorter than the original.
Oh, this movie is hella short. It's 86 minutes with credits.
And I would say some of that is the editing. They could let some of these moments linger. It might actually have helped for the intensity, but yeah, this attack is over in a couple eye blinks. I mean, it's a fast-paced movie, for better or for worse. If the last one was too slow, this one tries to make up for lost time. And after it's all over, Jamie gets a call from Corey. Her dead boyfriend still has an active cell phone and is making calls to her at midnight saying, if you don't tell them, then, this is going to keep happening. That it's putting it on Jamie as the important one, that suddenly she's the key to all of this. Why would that be? We'll talk about motive when we get to the end. I know that there are two different motives, but this must be Foster wanting this potential journalism student to write the story that's going to let his family history be known. That's the important thing that he's looking for out of her.
That's what I figured. We're going to find out he teamed up with Corey. Corey knows she's a potential creative writing major, so he's like, yeah, here's a good victim to go after to share your story, I guess.
Yeah, I really don't know motive on this one. Even when we get to the end to discuss it, it seems very nebulous. Why they want Jamie to do what she does. Keep in mind, one of their intents is to frame Jamie for all these killings at the end.
Yeah, that is Foster's intent. Corey doesn't know that. Corey doesn't know that he's a sap. Foster knows that. And Foster is the guy that volunteered to sleep outside her house in the squad car. He seems like the noble cop if Gary Cole is giving you the willies. But let's not forget that this actor was in the Blair Witch Project. He was the cameraman that went missing.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't recognize Josh! Josh! But there's Josh.
Yeah, again, this movie is ladled with people from the genre. If you just got to look hard enough, squint. And usually there's a meta commentary going on here. He sits down at the table with her, and he has the line that sticks out so much that I go, he's making it to the top of my list. I didn't know for sure he was the killer, but I definitely felt like they were indicating when he says, oh, I'm new to town, like Sparkplug. He's only been doing the job for a little bit, but everyone here has some kind of blood on their hands. And that kind of indicated that he had some grievance, right, with this town.
Yeah, that line definitely stuck out to me. All these cops, the original version, are not very good, but the fact that he had that line, he's on my suspect list.
But also on anyone's suspect list, I think it's been mentioned already, Reverend Cartwright. Yeah, he's going to be the one preaching to the town meeting when both mayors call a meeting at the movie theater and are trying to get the town to not dread Sundown so much. He's going to be the one saying, we deserve it. This is our sins that have brought the killer, the Phantom, back.
I love this scene because you just cut to one strange older guy trying to raise his hand, trying to get a word in edgewise, and cannot, between the preacher and the parents and everybody just shouting down how terrible it is and how that movie will never be shown again.
GD movie. Don't say goddamn.
Yeah, I'm going to violate First Amendment rights, I guess, and ban a movie. I don't think that's exactly legal, but that's what they're going to do in Texarkana. And that one guy, he's going to come back later. It's going to turn out to be Charles Pierce Jr., but I like how they introduce him here.
Yeah, look for the crowd. I think there are clues. There are things going on. Someone told me that the actual Charles Jr. is here, too. I wouldn't know him to recognize him. Danielle Harris from the Halloween sequels is supposedly here. I didn't catch all the jewels that are apparently around, but look in these big crowd scenes, you see that. I do like that old coot. Yeah, not only does he want to ban the movie, but later he's like, and get rid of the statue, too. Keep in mind, this is way before we had that conversation about Confederate statues and all of this. Movie is several years before that. So that's just a coincidence. Again, this is people that are being paranoid, that are wanting to blame their culture and themselves for why this misfortune is befalling them.
I do think they nailed the Texas or maybe Texarkana thing. I don't want to exclude Arkansas from this. Like, yeah, we don't just board up our windows. We also go to target practice. We got to shoot those guns.
And blowing into town here is going to be another Texas Ranger, this one played by Anthony Anderson, who I associate, again, completely with comedies. Yes, he was in one of the Scream films, but
I think Transformers, not a good comedy.
I mean, Blackish is where he won his Emmys. I mean, I think that's what he's loved for, is a sitcom. But yeah, definitely a figure of comedy, a stand-up comedian. That's, I think, how we're supposed to treat this guy. He is playing a guy with the exact same name, but Lone Wolf Morales.
Isn't Lone Wolf McQuaid like a movie or a TV show or something? I don't know. I felt like, again, Morales, yes, they're going to refer to that, but Lone Wolf, they're adding that extra layer of like, yeah, this is referential to other things, even though he'll say he's never seen that original film.
Well, keep in mind, Morales in the last movie was also called Lone Wolf. This is just a continuing of that. But the original figure actually was a young-looking, charismatic Latino guy. So, of course, we get Anthony Anderson, like a black guy. I don't know. They're not trying to, and I wondered this, they're not trying to correct the 76 movie for its mistakes. They are playing into them, but they will not try to make historical corrections about what the real... I don't think you're going to learn the real story from 46 by watching this movie, even though this movie's thesis seems to be 76 prevents you from knowing the real story.
Which I think is true. Like, there's been this whole big deal about The Blind Side, how that was all BS, and I always assume that most of a based on a true story is kind of BS, that they'll take the skeletons, especially a film like that. But like, I think, yeah, there's an important discussion to have there. I think what comes out as the film version of history does become the accepted version, because that's just how we are as a society.
Yeah, it has more impact. Sadly, the truth matters less than the legend. And so I think that's, again, what the town seems to be struggling with here in this moment. And Jamie is going to try and fix it. She is going to go to the archives and get the true story. And that leads her to another suspect.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Nick shows up all creepy in this. The archives are in an old jail, and like he's showing up behind the bars with the dossier and everything. I'm like, oh, he's been studying this. He knows who Mary is.
Yep, and I'm going back to Scream, where, spoiler alert, the killer's the boyfriend, and I know that these two are probably going to get romantic. I definitely had Nick at the top of my list.
Yeah, well, he knew her from high school. He was like, I sat behind you, don't you remember? I'm like, creepy stalker. It almost is too much.
Yeah.
I actually felt they were telegraphing so much. I'm like, maybe not him. Again, you want to misdirect people. So, but it could be anyone. It could be Anthony Anderson. It could be any of these cops. It could be this guy. I love how thick the mystery is.
You know who I thought it was? I thought it was going to be Sparkplug, because when Anthony Anderson's bringing the cops together, there's a guy there dressed in yellow, and they dismiss Sparkplug from the room, and I'm like, oh, you got Sparkplug here. And that's just the kind of one-off reference somebody might get in order to then be unmasked as the killer at the end.
I mean, I definitely think Charles Pierce, who played Sparkplug, was kind of a killer in the last movie. He was a killer of the scariness.
He really killed the mood of it.
Exactly. So you definitely dismiss him from this case because you don't want any of that Dukes of Hazzard hijinks going on. And they don't. I wondered if they would. I wonder if they would have some slapstick car chases. There's only so much referencing that they're going to do. They stay away from the stuff that we want them to. But Jamie comes home after, she finds out her theory is Benjamin Sewell, who was not anyone from the original movie or, as far as I can tell, from the 1946 case. They made up a suspect that she thinks might have been it. And then she gets an email. And this really is upsetting to her that Phantom is not just calling her, but sending her emails and pressuring her to, again, publish what she knows, to speak out and let her theory come to light.
And it should be emphasized, she's been told not to go to the press. So, I don't think anyone knows that there's some mystery about a Mary.
And I'm so glad that this movie is smart enough to know if you send an email, the FBI can, in fact, trace back to what server that came from.
That minister's got to use a VPN.
Yeah, the minister needs a VPN and a Proton Mail account. But I was rolling my eyes like, oh, they're going to say that they don't know who this email's from. No, they're very much going to find out that it was sent from that Reverend Cartwright.
It's going to take a while. They're not going to know right away. It's another month. But yes, the movie knows how law enforcement works, unlike last time.
And I do love that, just skipping ahead to get to Cartwright's motivation. I do like that, just like the original director was maybe capitalizing on something awful, making a movie about that, exploiting it. Like, that is his motivation. He's like, I love these murders. They're bringing people back to church. They've never been fuller. People are praying again. He actually, he kept preaching against that movie, but he loves the results.
And I mean, let's face it, these filmmakers can't be too indignant about the flippant use of the past. They're doing it too. They're making up crimes based on real crimes for their own financial gain and for the purpose of this plot. So I don't think the point of this movie really is that it's horrible that people exploit the past. It's just an acknowledged fact that people use misfortune for their own purposes. And we see many people in town doing that. And one of them is this boyfriend that all of a sudden he's hanging around on her porch. And we have some dialogue about how if you weren't worried about him before, his dad is an alcoholic, suicidal guy, and his mom went to the loony bin. And hey, you want to go on a date? I'll take you to the vigil where they're actually having a candlelight ceremony for that soldier and his girlfriend that died. And this is their make cute scene, if this is a romantic comedy.
Yeah, this is where they first hold hands. As they approach Corey's parents, who earlier called her a whore and a slut and all that, blamed her for his death. Here she is with another boy.
I liked that moment at the funeral scene, but yeah, here they're gonna let it go because I don't think they have time to react. Pretty soon, here comes the Phantom. He's just rushing into the crowd, mask on and everything, and hey, this is Texas. He's gonna get shot pretty fast.
This was the intent. We'll find out later he wrote a note and left it at home. He was a psychologically disturbed college student that wanted suicide by cop. So this Paul Mason was asking for it, literally.
And he wasn't even shot by a cop. He was shot by another soldier, because that nameless soldier and nameless girlfriend were also being memorialized here at this vigil. And so I'm guessing this is someone that served with him. And I love it. He just lays down. He's like, I fired. I did it. He knows he's getting arrested.
And keep in mind, again, I just think it's so cool, that opening. He was there. If you look at the person that the Reverend told, real people died in this. That was who he was talking to, that was walking by in the town with that dreaded Sundown t-shirt.
The suicide guy or the shooter?
The suicide guy, yes. He was there at the screening as well, maybe getting some ideas. But yes, the problem's over, right? Okay, we can all relax and dance. The Texas mayor is actually going to get up there and tell the big band to start swinging so that she can go to town.
This is kind of on par with the humor of that other one. Yeah, when they're all sitting there mourning, they're like, we got the killer, and they start cheering. Let's whip up the band. Let's all dance. I'm like, oh boy, is this how people would react when they break out and dance? If they heard a mass murderer was caught? I think you still say a little somber.
Well, if they heard the mass murderer was killed, and this is Texas, Yeah, I sang some dancing.
Yeah, true. Good point. I did find it funny, like, this is before the minister gets in trouble, but they're like, Reverend, give us a short prayer. Thanks.
But we got to get our third kill. You know, each time we've had a similar killing. If you remember, the third one was the trombone one. That's the one everyone remembers. How are they going to do that? Well, we have these two guys that are in the swing band, and as they're sneaking away, Gary Cole is telling them, go straight home. They're not. They're going to drive to a sign graveyard and make out with each other.
Yeah, this scene makes more sense when she told me one of the writers from Glee. I never watched that, but I know that had a lot of LGBT issues going on in it.
Every Ryan Murphy movie.
Okay.
Every Ryan Murphy project, American Horror Story. Again, it's really a mission for him. I think he wants to heighten LGBTQ visibility. And so, yeah, and it's kind of a fun twist. I mean, how many horror movies do we see where it's a guy and a girl? It may take some people a beat to realize, oh, this is just another one of those scenes, but with two guys.
Yeah, but is that progressive or is this kill your gaze? That's what I couldn't decide. I think it is, in a way, progressive that instead of just having a guy and a girl, you have two guys going out there to experiment. But the fact that they both get slaughtered, it seems to be a old trope.
I mean, we saw a hetero couple get slaughtered. Everyone gets slaughtered.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all slashers demonize sexuality. No matter what your bent is, you're going to die for it, I think is in keeping.
Yeah, but killing your gaze is a known trope, and so I couldn't decide if I was applauding the progressiveness or if I was deriding the regressiveness.
I will say I got worried when the trombone came out. I'm like, are they going to go like do something really awful because they're gay, like with that sliding knife and everything? But
well, isn't it the same thing? I mean, it wasn't the same implied sort of sodomy imagery that we had in the first one?
Yeah, that was in her back. Yeah, there's the penetration, but it's in the back. It wasn't like overtly sexual.
I mean, I watched the first movie with my mom, and when she saw the trombone, she was like, is he going to put it in her? Like, I mean, I think we have the same ideas. It leads to the same space. And yeah, I mean, in some ways, yes, it does mean that. But the scene is more exciting. I'll just say, by having it be this sort of semi-car chase, they crash and run through all these signs. The fact that, like, he's, like, chained up on a girder. I think it's like a tipped-over billboard, but there's these billboard flames, like the flames of hell, licking up at him as the guy's pulling the trombone out.
Yeah, and they have things spelled out that are, like, referencing the film and everything.
Legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that, again, if you have to redo the trombone scene and give it any kind of logic, God help you, this seemed like a creative way to relive it. And it probably helps to know that the original had a trombone scene. If you didn't have that, you might think that it was kind of an anti-gay thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they cut back and they'll flash back to the film, and hopefully you realize that that's what they're doing, that they're referencing the film that they were all watching at the drive-in, or else you might really be lost.
The point is, Johnny and Roy are out, and so if we're following the movie, Anthony Anderson didn't know the movie, but he sat down and he watched it on a small screen television, and now he knows the next thing is a farmhouse. Well, how's that a lead?
They're all farmhouses, as they say.
Yes, exactly. That does not help them get ahead of this killer.
But they throw me off. Like, again, they go to a hardcore sex scene with this blowjob. Like, it's going down, literally.
On Christmas. Can we just underline the fact that it starts Christmas Eve with him arresting a reverend?
He's getting his Christmas present early.
Yeah. I like that this movie progressed from, like, it started at Halloween, went to Thanksgiving, now it's at Christmas, arresting a man of the cloth, and then having the guy go pick up a one-night stand at the sleaze bar so that he can get a Christmas blowjob.
But you see him, like, he's got his gun on his nightstand, and then he's like, is he reaching for that? Oh, he's getting his beer, but I'm like, oh, he's got a gun. Maybe, like, he's going to have a shootout. Like, it's enough just to throw me off, even though, yeah, they're calling back to that original film and doing the kills in a very similar manner.
Yeah, this, I think, is a really successful kill.
It was shocking when that bullet hits him in the eye.
Oh my God, yes. When it comes through the eyeball?
Yeah.
You know that the killer does shoot the husband through the window, that Dawn Wells' husband was sitting there reading the paper. And so I guess just because he was doing something like reading the newspaper, I wasn't thinking we were in that moment. I probably should have been ahead of it. The movie tricks me. I didn't think we were in the kill But we're in the kill, and yeah, no sooner has he opened his eyes, climaxing, than boom, right there, the bullet is in his eye. And this woman now is going to try to do what Dawn Wells did and survive, run through a cornfield.
And they got a really cool shot from above where you could see her like crawling and you could see the path she's taking as the Phantom's looking for her. Again, like, I don't know, maybe they didn't have a lot of extra footage. That's why it's edited so tightly, but there's some good camera work in this.
Absolutely. I really liked that. And the paths that they were leaving, I thought it was cool that they were delineated versus not. And the fact that she was able to hide in those weeds, it was a really semi-suspenseful moment. And I thought she'd get away because I saw the last film. I really thought she'd get away.
Yeah, well, that's what I started asking. I was like, does he even really want to catch her? If you have a copycat, don't you want to do it exactly like it happened before? Nope. No, he's going to, not only is he going to like knife her in the back, but the next morning the neighbors are going to find that their scarecrow has been replaced with her and that she's just dangling there for all to see.
Yeah, the scarecrow was replaced with a scarehoe.
Ooh, badonch. But back to Jenny, because in the middle of all this, we've had a few scenes of her trying to process what this killer has meant to her. Now, keep in mind, she's lived in this town her whole life, but this is the first encounter she's ever had with the Phantom, excluding a sleepover. We have this moment described that she was at her friend's house. The big brother put a pillowcase over his head. She found out what the Phantom was and freaked out. Had to be brought home. Her parents were called. And this is why she's an orphan. This is why she lives with her grandma. Can we put this on the Phantom? Is this the Phantom's fault that her parents are dead and that she is now the target of the Phantom?
So I hate to bring up this very divisive review that happened. I wasn't involved, but Halloween Kills, like, yeah, where the town is overrun by paranoia of Michael Myers and, like, do crazy things.
Evil dies tonight.
Yeah, evil dies tonight, all that. Like, it does feel like in that same vein. Like, here is a town. Maybe they haven't processed that trauma. They treat it as kind of a fun event every year, but it had real consequences.
You're getting to my end thesis, but I'm going to make the case that this Sundown is as much a harbinger for that Halloween as the original was a harbinger for Carpenter's.
You're stealing my thesis for my end recommends.
All right, well then let's just share this thesis. It's two theses, like everything else in this movie, doubles. But yeah, I definitely see a lot of those later Halloween movies here, 5 years before that was ever scripted, before that was ever happening. Those ideas were formulated in this little throwaway Blumhouse film. But yes, that does seem to be the thing, that she lives in this town and needs to escape it. And Nick, is he still your number one? He's giving her a necklace. He's tried to kiss her and she's now forgiven him. Where you at with Nick?
Yeah, still my number one, because again, I'm still thinking Scream 1 and how that one went down. I mean, he's probably my number two, because I'm not even joking. I really thought Sparkplug was going to come back.
The actual Sparkplug from 1946?
No, the Sparkplug from this movie. The cop they referred to as Sparkplug.
Oh, okay. Because having a 100-year-old killer would be, well, it'd be creative.
A true Phantom.
Yes.
Yeah, I kept thinking the cops, they keep cutting back because there's always this one sitting outside her house to watch over her. I'm like, I don't know. Every time except Lone Wolf, like, he seems like a normal guy that actually wants to solve this case, but like all the other cops just gave me a weird vibe. But Nick is still on there, but he's not number one for me.
Agreed. And we have a new suspect, as you pointed out, at the town hall, even at the sleaze bar where the deputy picked up the woman. We've had this guy hanging out, just looking funny. And Nick knows that the original filmmaker of that 76 film had a son that lives in town, doesn't have a cell phone. How will we get to him? Well, they eventually get to him in this kind of cool transition where we go from the Scarecrow back in time. Suddenly we realize that farmhouse that just had a recent attack was where they shot the Dawn Wells attack. And we have Charles Pierce Jr. talking about his dad's theories.
I like this stuff. Yeah, they go into his house, which is actually just a boat, and he's got like this whole museum of memorabilia, the original mask. Do you want to touch it? Again, maybe other films like Halloween Kills. I was also thinking of Nope, where it had a lot to do with like what you see has an effect, and you had this guy with all the TV sitcom memorabilia from when the monkey attacked, and it felt like, yeah, this is getting into that kind of stuff before those films touched upon it.
And he's living at the salt flats, at the sand pit, where the climax of the first one was. So again, it's following the same progression after the farmhouse attack. Now we're at the sand pits. Is this where it's all going to climax? It feels creepy that they have this drunk guy that apparently has all the answers because his dad made a film.
So Hank McCready, is that anyone from any of the background stuff you read?
No. As far as I know, this is completely made up by the screenwriter, and that there is no Mary McCready who demanded an autopsy for a man that was found in pieces on a railroad track. That is not ever happened.
Yeah, I'm gonna ding this film at this point because I had to watch this scene twice to fully understand what it was that Pierce Jr. was saying here about McCready. And while they do a brief flashback scene, it's a lot of tell, don't show. It's introducing new characters that weren't in the first film, trying to retcon that story, and it just is not the greatest way to convey this piece of information that's going to end up being true. It's all going to be about this Hank McCreary is the reason why the Phantom is back, and that this is how we find this all out kind of sucks.
I understand your point. I agree that it is retconning and all of that. I will only offer that the original film did a pretty piss poor job of laying out all the theories that existed about who did it. And it mostly existed to try and relive the kills and didn't have too much insight on who was doing the killing. And so there were a lot of suspects and things laying around that people pointed to that didn't make the movie. So it makes sense that there would be a story that didn't make the movie that could be important. I would offer that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with, like, oh, there was this other murder. Like, the cops didn't want to talk about it with the press. Like, you know, they'll arrest someone because they just want to say, yeah, it's over, and put people's mind at ease. It doesn't matter if they're guilty or not. So, like, I don't have a problem with, like, oh, all of a sudden here's this other victim. I will say, because this is so short, like, it's just very quick. Who's this mystery of Mary? And we meet one character and he just spills it all right here, almost at the end of the film. Like, you want to play with that more and have Jamie, like, find more clues and stuff like that before you just have someone spell it all out.
I didn't believe it was true. I guess the surprise is when we get the ending, the climax is just like, wait, what?
Yeah, that they got it right on the first guess, like that it was McCready.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad I watched this scene twice because I really would have been confused at the ending had I only watched that scene once and then they start talking about this McCready again. But I was trying to make sure I got every detail that they are data dumping here. The end of this film, in my mind, falls apart, and it starts with this discussion with Charles Pierce Jr., and it just kind of gets worse from here.
It seems like they're just setting him up to be the killer, right? Like, if this movie has been telling us that it's the movie, that 76 Sundown, that made everyone so unhealthy, who else would be the killer but the son of that director, right? The person that's still living with the memorabilia and still living that day by day. It almost feels like a reveal. Again, you could have the climax be a shootout right here, like it was in the original. Have the train pass by and we're here, but they don't.
Yeah, I'll say, and I'm assuming because this is Blumhouse, they're going to just pay just enough money as needed to get this filmed. Maybe a few extra seconds of footage that was edited out. This ending feels very rushed. There should be more mystery. Is it this son of McCready or the son of this director? I don't have a problem that it's actually McCready. Like, I think that's kind of a good idea. Like, yeah, here's someone that wasn't memorialized in that film that everyone remembers and everyone mourns all the other victims. But what about this other one that just got forgotten? Like, I don't have a problem with that. It just feels very rushed by the end here.
All right, here's the crazy thing. Jamie's literally going to come home from this.
This is the craziest part of the film.
This is the craziest part. And Grandma, now keep in mind, this is what, a couple days after Christmas. And Grandma's like, I read that you got into this college. And I really don't want you to be trapped in this town with all of this chaos going on. So you're going to school, you're going to that California college tonight.
Yes, we are leaving tonight. Pack your bags.
Has she even graduated from high school yet?
This is what I'm saying. I'm wondering why she's not a senior. Like, why aren't you in school? And yes, that they're going to just go in the middle of Christmas to a college? Again, maybe it makes her look like the killer. Like, okay, what are you really taking her to? Because that makes no damn sense.
That's what I'm saying. This gets very rushed at the end. We just got to move along and get there.
Yeah, very weird. And on the TV, we see Morales eulogizing the death of Tillman. It's come out that the deputy got shot in the eye, and he doesn't come back in this. Like, I thought maybe that's the point, that just like Ben Johnson wasn't much of a hero in the end, this guy doesn't do anything in the climax. This guy that was supposed to come in and solve everything. But I just thought Anthony Anderson, I just thought it would be a very different climax than what we get of Veronica Cartwright, grandma, packing up her daughter after the daughter's like, no, first, let me text my creepy boyfriend and have sex.
This sealed it for me that he was going to be the killer, right? Again, that's exactly what happened in Scream. I'm like, all right, they're just really going that direction. I didn't realize how much they'd go Scream at the end, but I really thought that we were going to find out that Nick was the killer. Nope, Nick is going to die as soon as he comes.
Yeah, they do a trick from the Halloween 2018. Like, there was a pretty good moment in that where the nerdy guy is cutting across the lawns, and people got these lights, right? The motion detector lights that if you're walking on my lawn, click, they come on. And you walk past, click, they go off. They do a cheap version of that here, that after he has sex with her, she has a dream sequence that she's actually sleeping with dead Corey, but it's Nick. And he's like, I'll see you in California. I'll come to visit. And then cutting across lawns because he doesn't want the cop out front seeing him. And click, click, click. We see Sackhead coming up behind and the Phantom whacking him. We know he's dead in this moment. Or did you think that was him putting on the sack?
No, I knew he was dead.
I thought for sure that he was dead.
Okay, yeah, we all understand, even if he was your number one at this point. Okay, it's Grandma, it's the Reverend, it's somebody else. I mean, I had a pretty good feeling that it was going to be Foster. The way that she makes a point of stopping by and giving him a file on McCready and being like, could you look into this? And him being like, oh, sure. Anyway, but I did forget, the original movie made a point. There was a gas station attendant that also was caught up in the mix.
Did it? I did not recall that.
Yeah, remember the black guy that's like, I want my $1.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So we got to have a scene here at the gas station where, yeah, they pull over and they have one of those old style credit cards, carbon copy, that you have to drag it across to make an imprint on your card. And it covers the sound of the shots as the Phantom is shooting across the street and taking out Grandma and some other old dude.
Yeah, there's someone else filling with the gas. I'm like, oh, Grandma's dead meat here. Like, this is where something's going to happen. A creepy cashier at this gas station. But we talked about it was weird, like, in that original film, like, is this killer using knives? Is he using guns now? It's weird that a slasher would have a gun. Like, at this point, because this is so much a mystery and you're supposed to get this information out, the fact that, like, I think they're just sniping people at this gas station, that cashier will run out and just get sniped. I'm like, no, this kind of makes sense because they have set this up as something different.
Yeah, I had no problem with it in this one. It's all about tone, right? It's all about getting it just right, and they did.
And she's got nowhere to go. She grabs her purse, and she goes running to the nearest available building, which just happens to be that movie theater, which is where the original ended. And so, again, they're trying to bring it all full circle here. It's kind of cool the way it's dovetailing back in on itself. If you know that original movie, that she's at the movie theater, she's got a gun, it was in the purse, so we know she's armed, but she's also got her phone, and the killer can call that as Corey.
This is what blew my mind, because, okay, the first time she got a call and it said from Corey, all right, maybe there's a 30-day waiting period till that phone line gets canceled. Like, this is months after. I'm like, are the parents still paying his phone bill to keep that line active?
We didn't know it was a clue. Again, I had no guess, and I looked at everybody, and I never looked at Corey. I did not believe that he was going to be... I didn't know there would be two killers. There was a lot of duplicates. God knows, as Arnie says, this is a Scream movie. Scream always has at least two killers. That is a trope of that series. And seeing why they work together is a thing. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I feel like it does in some ways, and in other ways it's forehead-slappingly stupid.
Foster I go with. It's Corey. When we get his motivation, I'm like, this is dumb. Like, this is really stupid.
That's what it is. I don't have a problem that they did it together, but the fact that he has that speech is bad.
Yeah, I had to back it up and watch it twice again because I just was like, what was his reasoning? Why did he do this? Why was he going along with it? He wanted to be part of something special, and
because he was never going to get out of that town.
It's a trap. I mean, I understand this to this degree. I mean, we didn't know him enough to know that that was something he was suffering from. And I don't even think you can figure that out from the few scenes we get of the parents later. But he felt controlled. He felt like his dad had gone away and then come back and gotten stuck in a small town, and he wanted to do something cool. Is that connected at all with any motivation? I don't know. We never knew who the original killer was. We never know what motivated them. So it just feels like a BS reason to try and explain why this teenager would be working with the grandson of the victim that no one knows about.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of time when there is a real-life mass shooter who's younger, it's just like, oh, they wanted to be remembered for something. It feels very Psychology 101. I was expecting a better motivation for this.
Agreed. It was really thin, and it was not a good reason to bring this character back from the dead, you know? Kind of a fun twist, but it really just struck me as lame at this point.
It's lame, but at the same time, you got to admit they got you, right? Like, on the surface, they win because you weren't suspecting him.
You know how they got me? It's because I'm like, who? I didn't remember Corey's name from the beginning.
Come on, they even show his face when he calls on the phone. They remind you.
Yeah, and she had that sex dream and all of that where he was there, and like he kept popping up. So they did what they could to keep Corey in her mind, that she talked to the therapist and she felt so bad that he was a good person, and she felt guilty for killing him. And the parents certainly made her feel bad for that as well, that it was somehow her fault she ran away. Well, he wasn't a good person. I like some of the irony of it. It's just the speech. It's just the way that this all happens here at the end. It's very rushed. All of a sudden, she's running across train tracks. We see that Nick is chopped up in pieces. We see that there's two sackheads. One of them has crossbows. And the one that's not Corey, Foster, is going to kill Corey and make it look like Jamie wanted this to happen. That all of her obsessing and writing about this, her past with the Phantom, it would all play into a narrative that this cop would bring her to justice. And in doing so, the story of McCreary could finally be told. But she's got a gun. I pointed that out already. I didn't notice it. Again, watching the movie the second time, you're able to track some of this.
It's very dark. Yeah, I didn't notice it till it went off.
Yeah, strange editing here at the end where he shoots Corey and then he's on top of her and then she shoots him. And
does he fall back into the swamp and like just washes away? I couldn't really, again, the picture is so dark, I couldn't really tell what was going on.
I thought it was going to be a Boggy Creek like crossover. The Bigfoot was going to come out and grab him or something.
Yes.
And maybe that even was what they were going for. I don't know if it was a Boggy Creek joke or not, but the point is he becomes a Phantom too. We don't have conclusive proof that he's dead. Maybe he'll come back for a sequel. If this thing had made any money, I'm sure they would have made another one.
And we're going to get a quick denouement where Jamie is now in college and seemingly well-adjusted after all of this.
She publishes her story. I think that's the healing, right? That she gets front page in the paper and is able to tell her version. But not everyone's going to believe it because there's no body. So she makes the point that some people will always believe it's a spirit, like the religious folks. And some people, like Pierce, are just going to cling to their daddy's legacy. And she is going to try to put it behind her.
Well, before we put this behind us, Jakob, Stuart, do you recommend The Town That Dreaded Sundown, 2014 version? Jakob.
I was originally going to say, was this really directed by Peter Jackson? Because it's bad taste. That's a reference to a Peter Jackson film. Go watch it. It's good. But then I realized, after talking to Stuart informing us about how much was made up in that original film, I don't know, this is even smarter than I originally gave it credit for. At first, I'm like, wow, this is really exploitive, where it took this, more or less a docudrama, you took a Wikipedia article and tried to tell this meta story about it, but, no, it's actually smarter because a lot of that was already fiction, and that's what came to be known as the truth, more or less, and this is grappling with all of those kind of issues. We talked about Halloween Kills. Better than that. I like this a lot more than Halloween Kills, maybe because you don't have a hospital full of people chanting "Evil Dies Tonight" as they chase a hunchback around. That was very silly. This one surprised me. I'm not going to say it's genius, but it was smart, and I wasn't expecting that. I was really dreading this film, watching it again. I thought it was going to be a remake. I didn't really groove with that original one, but they had ideas here. Are they always executed in the best way? No. This could be punched up a bit more. Yeah, Arnie, does this rely on Scream? Maybe, but the best part about Scream is that Drew Barrymore kill. That's all I remember about any of those films. And yeah, this is getting into that meta text, but yeah, Cabin in the Woods, it's become a thing at this point. And I like what they do here, commenting on, an exploitation film and how it's shaped this town and how that's become the memory instead of the actual killings. And that is the danger of modern society, as the media becomes the history and not the actual history. So I liked what they were going for. There are flaws here, mostly the ending. It feels very rushed. Corey's motivation, not the best, but I would, give this one a solid recommend. It was quite a surprise, maybe because I had such low expectations after watching the original. But the question is, should you watch the original? Do I have to go back and change that arrow? If you're going to watch this one, I would say watch the original. You're going to be able to appreciate this one more and what it's doing and the references. They feel of a piece that needs to go together. So I'm recommending this one, and I'm also recommending, if you watch this one, then I recommend the original one. Watch that one first and then this one. They're both very short movies. It's not a whole lot of investment. But yeah, really like this film. It was a nice surprise. Recommend.
Stuart.
Yeah, and I hear a difference in that one you're recommending as an enjoyable experience, and one you're recommending so that you'll understand and enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
But not because you've changed your mind on 76.
No, I have not changed my mind on that. I just think it will make you appreciate this one more.
Yeah. Well, I want to start by saying I'm 6 for 6 on recommending Scream movies. I like them all. I even flipped that red arrow I had on Scream 4 when I saw it theatrically. When I went back in the run-up to Scream 5, I was like, this one works too. I'm just a sucker for postmodern horror. I like the gamesmanship. So if Sundown 2014 wants to play that game and be a wannabe Scream, I'm cool with that. Let's do that. And that includes the dual killers, the self-referential humor, the blame the movie stance of it all. It's not one of the better Scream sequels. I'll preface it by saying I don't think this movie's terrific. It's certainly not groundbreaking like the Wes Craven original, or as entertaining as the most recent one, which I consider the best. But I did really enjoy the ways that the filmmakers tweaked what was working about 76. That was a film that needed a lot of help. It had these raw ideas that needed refinement. And now we have this well-shot, decently acted, good mystery to mine all of that and make that experience richer. So yes, I think it actually helps this movie that it's indebted to something kind of obscure, that you kind of have to go and find this other movie that's weird and know that before you can go here. I think sometimes people get offended when you try to remake a classic. That original is no classic, and this one's no classic. But they do have fun bringing back the trombone. That Christmas blowjob scene is really good. I just think that, the jokes are sharp, the mystery is good, and it's an entertaining Scream film. So if you like those kinds of horror movies, do yourself a favor and see both.
Well, I'm going to make it 3 for 3 on recommends, but I'm going to be much colder on this film than my two co-hosts here because I had to really ponder whether or not this was going to be a recommend. I think it has some fun slasher kills. I think it has a engaging final girl in Jamie. I think that it has a nice cast of characters, and I think it's a good-looking film. But I think that the script gets messy, and the ending is a little confusing, the motivations are unclear, and that really soured me on the film. Everything from the time they go and visit Charles Pierce Jr. after on is this mishmash about Hank McCreary that, again, is not a character from the original film, is not a real person, and is not well described here other than the data dump from Pierce Jr. So I really had a lot of problems with this film, and I strongly thought I was going to give it a weak not recommend. I really did. But the more we ruminated on it, I see there is some good in this, and that hotel room kill scene is just a great vignette.
Boobs and blood, it gives you everything you want in a slasher.
It does. It's just, that scene would work in any slasher film at all. It doesn't matter who the killer is. So I'm able to give this a weak recommend as a slasher film, as a Scream wannabe, maybe as a proto-Halloween Kills. I didn't really think about that when I was watching this, but I can see your points, Jacob. For Halloween, if you're looking for a new movie to watch that you haven't seen, you want a slasher, I think this 2014 will do it. I'm with Jacob. You kind of need to see the 1976 film to really get the impact of the 2014 film. So if you gotta make it a dual bundle, like put them both in not recommend category.
You go the opposite of me then.
Yeah, I don't think this one is good enough to make the first one worth watching, but standing alone and having watched the first one, yeah, this is a weak recommend.
All right, that's strange because on one hand, I'm hearing you really saying it's not worth it. Because you do. You absolutely have to see 76 to like what I like about 2014.
Yeah, but I think 14 can stand on its own enough.
It would be a fine slasher. I think I get what you're saying. As a slasher, it's passable, but what I appreciate about this film and why it gets, again, not a great genius film, but underrated. Like, I really like this one. That's because I saw that first one and I got all the references and what they were going for.
And again, you make that first one sound like torture. Maybe it was for you, but I just...
Not torture, but it's a real solid not recommend.
It's a funny little curiosity that, again, gets exploited really well. It's a film of raw ideas and potential that other people would mine, and some of those people that mine it for something better do it here in 2014. This remake makes whatever misgivings you'd have about the original worth living through.
Yeah, as weird as this may sound, thank you, Sean Ray, for sponsoring that last film so I could appreciate this one. Because, this one made that one worth it.
Yeah, and I don't think we would have ever gotten to this retrospective. None of these hosts knew about this project. There's a lot of horror movies out there. I don't know that we would have ever gotten to it. I'm glad I saw them both.
Same here. So thank you again, Sean Ray. Thank you to all the Now Playing supporters. It is you guys who allow us to do this show Tuesday after Tuesday, but our time going to catalog titles is over. It was brief. We are going back to theaters this weekend. Saw 10 is coming out. Jacob, you, I, and Marjorie will be back next Tuesday.
If we must.
To cut back into Jigsaw with this interquel that takes place between part 1 and part 2.
I mean, aren't they all like that? I feel like, I don't know, you're the keeper of the timeline.
I'm rewatching all 9 Saw films leading up to it.
It almost seems like you'd have to if you want to try to follow it at this point. It's but a labyrinth.
I don't. I'll watch the film, but I don't want to try to follow them all.
Yeah. I hear ya. And we've also gone back to theaters last weekend, which is why this Friday we have a new review of Expendables 4. The finale for Stallone. I guess he's getting off. If they make any more, he won't be doing it. Let's see if he ends up on a high note.
And it ends our donation drive, this summer-spring donation drive. Calendar fall is just around the corner, so it's time to button up our spring-summer donation drive. This is the end. If you want to get all of these bonus podcasts, all the shark movies we did, 47 Meters Down, The Meg 1 and 2, The Shallows, Open Water, if you want to hear the reviews of the 5 Piranha films, if you want to hear our reviews of the entire Evil Dead series, if you want to hear our reviews of the entire Indiana Jones series, and yes, the Expendables series, this is all of our spring-summer donation drive that ends with Expendables 4 this Friday. And again, I can't stress this enough, it is listener support that keeps us on the air. We did not pause in the middle of this podcast in order to discuss pet food or Audible subscriptions.
A mattress.
Yeah, mattresses are a big one.
Manscaped, you don't have to listen to me talk about shaving my pubes. I hate those commercials and podcasts. I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, we don't have to hear a commercial about it, but, depends on the movie.
But if it just comes up in conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there's movies where it's relevant.
So we rely completely on your support to keep this show going. Sean Ray is not enough to keep the show going alone. We need listener support through our donation drives and through our patron program. You can find the details at nowplayingpodcast.com/donate. And we thank you in advance for your support of Now Playing Podcast.
Hear, hear.
We'll talk to you this Friday with Expendables 4. And Jacob, Stuart, thank you for joining me. Until next time, don't look back.
I gotta run. I'll see you, Chief. Guys.
Thank you for listening to this Now Playing Podcast movie review.
So I just wanted to show him that I'm grateful. Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
Again, let me say, it's a pleasure to see all of you out here having such a good time. And I think tonight has been a fitting climax to what has been a great year.
And come back to NowPlayingPodcast.com next Tuesday for another all-new movie review podcast.
I'm going to do it again and again until you make them remember.
Help us spread the word about this show by leaving a 5-star review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your podcast store of choice.
It's a source of pleasure to him. Makes him feel important.
Want more reviews like this one? In the archives section of NowPlayingPodcast.com, you'll find more than 1,000 in-depth movie reviews from our panel of hosts.
Now we just use it for storage. All of our archives and files.
Support from listeners like you keeps Now Playing Podcast on the air.
Well, we're doing the best we can possibly do.
You can donate directly by tapping the support button at NowPlayingPodcast.com.
If you want money, I can get you money.
Need more Now Playing? Subscribe to our In Focus weekly newsletter for exclusive digital download giveaways, celebrity interviews, behind-the-scenes insights, and more. Sign up through the subscribe page on our website and get it delivered to your inbox every Friday.
I'll keep you informed as to what I'm doing.
Now Playing Podcast is produced by Arnie Carvalho.
Since I'm in charge of this investigation, things are going to have to be handled my way.
Associate produced by Jason Latham.
I am not going to let this mess be the most important thing in your life.
Now Playing is edited by Heath, Santiago, and Arnie.
I heard something. I'm not kidding. I heard something.
Now Playing credits read by Brock.
Well, I'm just going by the statistical profile he fits within, Captain. This thing has become a game with him, you know.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the views of Venganza Media Incorporated.
Rumors can hurt us.
Venganza Media Incorporated is not affiliated with, and this podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by any entity that created the film analyzed herein.
You don't mean that fellow they call the Lone Wolf of the Texas Rangers?
That's right.
All movie clips and music included in this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. They are included here for the purpose of review and no infringement is intended.
Make Texarkana pay for its sins.
Now Playing Podcast is an exclusive trademark of and may not be used without the express written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated.
You want an official or a private reply?
Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2023, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. All rights reserved.
What happened to the Phantom Killer, no one really knows. Some believe he was convicted of another crime, and today he is still serving his term in a Kansas prison. Some believe he died here in these swamps. Texarkana today still looks pretty much the same. And if you should ask people here on the streets what they believe happened to the Phantom Killer, most would say that he is still living here and is walking free.
Jamie writing a fictional story to process, like, to get into college, writing a story about a story in her town. I was going to be so mad if that was the reveal at the end.
That's not I Know Who Killed Me. Or, I Know Who Killed Me, not I Know What You Did Last Summer. Sorry.
Lindsay Lohan, yeah.
Yes, how could you forget? I know, I do want that sequel. The piano teacher comes back.